Hey, what's up everybody, Michael here. We are doing another deck tech, time for a new brew. This is my Hyper Burn deck. This is a sort of a deck that I wanted to incorporate some Born of the Gods cards with because I've always loved burn. Burn effects are just one of my favorite things to do, and I've never been able to make a really good burn deck, so I wanted to take another stab at it. I did make a burn deck. It was a Boros Control burn deck, but that one I didn't really like playing. It wasn't as fun, and you know, there just wasn't enough burn in there for my liking. It was a little bit too much emphasis on the control aspect. So this is another attempt at mostly a burn deck, but I feel that with the new Born of the Gods cards, it just allows for many more options and allows us to be able to play our deck in a lot of different routes, and it really helps in. There's a lot of value with a lot of these cards, and I will go over them with you. So there are quite a few Born of the Gods cards in here. Because there are a lot of great burn cards that came in with the Born of the Gods set in red. So this is a mono red splash white deck. So let us go through all the spells. I'll just, as usual, go through one by one and explain my thoughts on them. So first off, we have 14 instant speed spells. We have Flated Conflagration, which is one of the Born of the Gods spells. It is a 3 red, 1 colorless, and is an instant speed. It deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If it's our turn, we can scry 2. So the scry is not really the greatest part. We're probably not going to be using this too much on our turn anyways, but the fact that it deals 5 damage and just outright kills a one of the key a couple of the key planeswalkers, namely Jace and Elspeth, even if they +1, it still kills them. So they'll only get 1 +1 out of it, and it works just really well. And it works because we don't have many creatures that we're attacking with all the time anyways. So Jace doesn't get too much value, and Elspeth only gets 3 tokens, which we could usually care less about. So just a really great card to deal with those planeswalkers. It also does help against some of the larger red-green matchups. One creature specifically is Polukranos. Polukranos is 5 toughness, so unless we want to be using 2 spells to kill it, Fated Conflagration really helps out in just sort of killing that right off the bat as well. So especially being on the play, playing against those mono green or red green devotion matchups, we can always just hold up the 4 mana, and if they play Polukranos, we can kill it outright. If not, we can just send more burn spells to their face and just do things a little bit better that way. Even on the draw, it does allow us to be able to use it on our turn right away, and we get to use the Scry 2 out of that playing on the draw. So it's not a terrible thing indeed. Definitely works really well in our deck, and it's nice to have a stronger burn spell to be able to deal with those planeswalkers as well as larger creatures. So then we have a playset of Lightning Strike. Not much to say there. Lightning Strike's just a great burn spell. Hits lower costing creatures in the aggro matchups, but otherwise it can go straight to the face for 3 damage. Then we have 3 copies of Magma Jet. We have just a lot of things to scry into, and just having a burn deck, one thing you really want to do is be able to manipulate the top of your deck. Burn decks are pretty dependent on what you keep drawing in, and you do need certain things for certain matchups at certain times. So the Scry really does help a lot. So we're having 3 copies of those. Then we're having 3 copies of Searing Flood. I might switch this around a bit. I might play with 4 copies of Magma Jet and just 2 copies of Searing Flood. But I feel this card works really well in our deck, and just the synergy it has with Satyr Fire Dancer. That is one of the main reasons why I wanted to play Searing Blood, but I'll explain that combination once we get to Satyr Fire Dancer. Then we're playing 2 copies of War Leader's Helix. We are having white sources to play off. We are running 4 Temple of Triumph, 2 Plains, and 2 Temple of Silences. The Temple of Silence, again, the Scry really does help our deck out, and it does give us another white source. It does give us also a black source to play off of Toil and Trouble if we need to do that for later on. Then we're running 24 lands. 24 might be a bit much. I might knock it down to 23 to make room for more things, or possibly even 22, because we do have quite a low curve. The top end of our curve being War Leader's Helix, Fated Conflagration, and Oracle of Bones. For creatures, we are running 4 copies of Chandra's Phoenix, just a sort of a staple in a burn deck. Just really good, great early damage, and then we can always end up getting it back to keep doing other things with it. Then we have 3 copies of Gutter Snipe, just to speed up our burn rate. and it does give us a lot more value out of our other cards if we happen to have them on the field and have to use our burn for removal. We still get some damage squeezed in there, so I really like Gutter Snipe. He is not a very great card, just being a 2/2 for 3, but still it does give us a little bit of reach. And then we have 3 copies of Oracle of Bones, another Born of the Gods card. Just a really great card in our deck because we have a lot of ways we can play things off of it if our tribute doesn't happen to be paid. At worst case scenario, we get a 5/2 haster, or a 5/3 haster, sorry, if they pay the tribute. If not, we can play a Fated Conflagration off of that, which is really great because A, it's on our turn, so we get the Scry 2, and B, we can just kill off one of their large creatures or their Planeswalker. Or we can just do more damage to their face. We can make some more room for removal on, on their side of the board. So just, yeah, overall a really great card in our deck. Then we have 4 copies of Satyr Fire Dancer. So this is another Born of the Gods card and just a really good card. Again, it increases the value because that's one thing I felt while playing my old burn deck was I felt I lost a lot of value and it was a lot harder to play certain matchups because a lot of the time, pausing the vid. Okay, sorry about the ringing of the phone. Alright, so Satyr Fire Dancer, yeah, it really gives us a lot of value on our cards because one thing I felt while playing my old burn deck was playing certain matchups I had to either choose a lot most of the time to choose if I want my removal to, or want my burn to go to the face or to remove guys, and it ended up I just ran out of gas too often and it just ended up dying because I used burn in a wrong way. Satyr Fire Dancer sort of helps alleviate that, and it helps to increase the value you get on cards, especially Searing Blood. So that is one thing I really like, is the Searing Blood and Satyr Fire Dancer interaction. So you have Satyr Fire Dancer on the field, and then they play a creature that you want to remove, and it's only 2 toughness. Maybe it's a weak Pack Rat or a Soldier of the Pantheon, something like that. And we have Searing Blood, so we cast Searing Blood only for 2 mana. It kills the creature, it deals 3 damage to the target creature's controller, and because it's an instant speed spell that dealt damage to the opposing player, it triggers Satyr Fire Dancer, which in turn gives us another free Lightning Strike towards killing another creature. So it sort of goes back and forth a little bit, and it's really great because we can pretty much 2-for-1 them with Searing Blood and Satyr Fire Dancer if it's on the field. So yeah, that's one interaction that I really liked, and I thought that was a pretty cool interaction as well. And then we have 4 copies of Young Pyromancer, another staple for burn decks. Just gives us fuel for a demon, gives us more blockers, more attackers. We can chump all day with this guy. So another way just to get lots of value off of our burn cards. Sorry. And then we have 2 copies of Mizzium Mortars. So Mizzium Mortars, I felt I didn't really need to play 4 of them. We have quite a few ways to kill off creatures, and we can play a little bit more aggressively with our burn this way. But the overload does come in handy, and because we are playing mono red, it really isn't hard for us to get that overload cost going. And worst case scenario, we can just use it as just cast it outright and still get value off of Gutter Snipe and Young Pyromancer and be able to do things that way. Plus, even Oracle of the Bones, we can play it off of that, so that's always nice. Then we have 2 copies of Chain to the Rocks. I wanted 2 copies just for some hard removal. In the off chance we don't have the way, Fated Conflagration or something like that to kill off, larger creatures. Especially Desecration Demon is one creature that we can't really, kill off, and Young Pyromancer is the only way we can actually really deal with it. I really don't like using 2 cards to kill off 1 creature, so having that just Chain to the Rocks just for those really strong creatures is just a really nice thing to have. And then for our sideboard, so the main board I feel is generally good at handling creature-based matchups already, so the sideboard is mostly set up for the control or mid-range situations. We do have 2 copies of Anger of the Gods just for those really mono-white, or those really white weenie decks, or the really fast mono-red decks. we'll generally take out 2 copies of Chandra's Phoenix or something like that. Mainly because we don't really want to exile Chandra's Phoenix or kill off a lot of our guys, but that is one thing that we have to be careful of doing. But at the same time, just being able to board wipe and reset things for us is sort of a nice feature to have. Then we have 4 copies of Fire Drinker Shader. So this comes in for the control matchups just because it's a really quick card to play. It gives us a 1-drop because we are lacking 1-drops. But we generally switch over to a more aggressive route and use our burn straight to the face. We bring in Fire Drinker Shader for another source of damage. You know, turn 2 it can swing in for 3. Turn 4 even more if we have nothing else to play. So it works really well in the control matchups. Just a just a threat that they have to deal with outright. And then we have 2 copies of Mizzium Mortars, just bringing in more removal for just more creature heavy matchups, especially for decks that play, you know, Blood Barons and things like that. Because War Leader's Helix, while it does 4 damage, it doesn't hit Blood Baron because of protection from white. So, and generally we want to save Fated Conflagration for Elspeths and things like that. So having the ability to kill Blood Barons and other things of that sort, just one spell, is really nice to have. Then we have 2 copies of Revoke Existence. This is another Born of the Gods card. It's a really good answer, I think, for Gods. It's pretty much the best answer for Gods right now, is just 2 mana. It is sorcery, but at the same time, you know, just being able to exile a god right away is just really good to have. And especially with Born of the Gods coming out with more enchantment-based things, it does give us another way to exile, you know, enchantment creatures or things like that, bestow creatures, just any troublesome thing like that. And we know it does hit artifacts, and the off chance we absolutely need to hit something like that. Then we have 2 copies of Root Born Defenses. Now, I don't know about this card. I felt because we are playing a lot of creatures that rely on staying on the field, I felt against the control matchups, bringing in a couple of Root Born Defenses might be nice. Just to be able to sort of not get too blown out by Supreme Verdict or something like that. So that is, we just bring in 2 of those for the control matchup as well. Then we have 2 copies of Toil and Trouble. Again, mainly for the Sphinx's Revelation control decks because they draw mass amounts of cards, so we get the most value out of Trouble. But we are playing a black source through 2 Temples of Silence. Sorry. So it does allow us to fuse them together at the same time, which is pretty sweet. And I'm not exactly sure how Oracle of the Bones goes, but I'm not sure if you can fuse them together with Oracle of the Bones. Which, if you can, that'd be extremely good, and that'd be really sweet to be able to do that. Then we have 1 copy of Wear and Tear. It's just another way to kill off enchantments because generally Revoke Existence is going to be saved for gods and things like that, more indestructible things. So Wear and Tear just gives us another way to answer weapons and things of that sort. So that is the deck. I think there are other things that I could possibly add and take out, but this is just, of course, the first draft. So I'm going to throw this together. I do have some of the cards. I'll need to get some more Satyr Fire Dancers. I'll need to pick up some Fire Drinker Satyrs. But the rest of them I have pretty much enough copies of. I need to get some Fated Conflagrations. I think one of my friends pulled one, so I'll probably grab one from him. And then I'll have to grab Searing Bloods as well. But other than that, Chandra's Phoenix probably is going to be the most expensive one out of this deck. I think there was one thing that when I was going through the list, I just realized of a card that I might have forgotten, but I can't for the life of me remember what it is. And it was a pretty good card that I need to make room for. If I remember, then I will let you guys know. Or on second thought, I'm going to pause this recording and try and remember it. Okay, I remembered the card now. It was Skullcrack. I can't believe I didn't include Skullcrack in a burn deck. Oh, that's terrible. But yeah, I made room for Skullcrack. I took out 1 mountain. I feel knocking it down to 23 lands is going to be perfectly fine for this deck. And then I took out a copy of Guttersnipe because it is one of the weakest creatures in our deck. But it still does have its uses, so I just took out 1 and brought in 2 copies of Skullcrack. Sorry. It brings in some more burn as well as it does affect the two of the largest matchups that we have, which is Mono Black and Sphinx's Revelation decks. We can, because we're going to be a little bit aggressive with the burn, they are going to be trying to get a Sphinx's Revelation off early, as well as possibly even for Mono Black. You know, if they slap on Underworld Connections, they might have to Grey Merchant on turn 5 for some life, because by that point we probably have burned them quite well. So having them not be able to gain any life is pretty much the worst thing that can happen in a burn deck. So that is something that we don't want. It might even be a possibility to just bring in a main deck of Skullcrack, just fill up our deck with burn and see how it goes from there. That is something that we're gonna have to experiment with, but we will definitely see. Maybe switch out 2 copies of Mizzium Mortars and bring in 2 copies of Skullcrack on the sideboard. That is a possibility, because even you know, Mizzium Mortars is a great removal spell, but with so much burn that we have, it's really not, you know, it's not a huge necessity. I'd rather have more burn that goes straight to the face rather than just targeting creatures. So yeah, that is my deck. I definitely hope you guys enjoyed watching this. It seems like it's going to be a really, really fun and fast-paced burn deck, and it'll be nice to actually play burn deck again. So that is everything. If you, again, as usual, if you guys have any suggestions or comments, please leave them below. If there's any Born of the Gods cards that you think would actually fit well in this deck, please let me know. I'm always looking for more Born of the Gods to throw in here. But right now we do have quite a few Born of the Gods cards, so it's actually pretty nice. They brought some really, really great red cards from that set. So yeah, that is everything. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.